Oh.
I wear my sunglasses in the day,
So,
cause the sun is in my face.
It really is. It's a sunny day out there. It's a beautiful day.
Why you would wear it at night?
This is like, you know,
It's so weird.
we used to have this.
This is South Texas.
Death Rider.
What? It's about to be the Sabbath. We have to respect the Sabbath. Where the hell are my glasses?
But, as you were saying.
Yeah, so, like I was saying, the commercial agents, supposed commercial agents.
Maybe so-called short accounts or something?
What?
Maybe they would take their hat.
No, that's where their money goes.
Oh.
But these so-called agents were hired to come up with a dossier against, obviously, the Trump administration. Now, obviously, I have no love for the Trump administration. I believe he's a neocon, just the same as Hillary, Obama, Bush, the other Clinton, the other Bush, you know. It's the same thing. Yeah. We're all in cahoots with their Big Daddy Lucifer. But I will say, in defense of, let's say, democracy and justice, she, well, it wasn't just her, but it's just Hillary. It's the entire DNC, you know, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the Podestas, the people that Cornell may have because he has been very vocal.
That, and I think also too, just I guess seeing what happened with Cornell and Bennington.
Exactly.
I think he has a more of an urgency to say.
Well, he said, like he said in the video, he's like, I fear for my life. You know, it's like my bandmates have left because they feel for their life.
Supposedly that whole band was anti-establishment,
well, they were trying.
Anti-government and all that, so...
Yeah. Corey, if you're listening, we will be your new band. You join us, man. We need a guitarist anyway. I don't know if you can play, but learn. Anyway, so...
Because we do this singing, man. We have to share with you.
Because you don't sing very well. I love you, bro. I think you're doing awesome. But you're a great actor.
Dude, I loved you on Dream a Little Dream. That's like one of my favorite 80s movies of like all time.
Lost Boys.
Yeah, bro.
One of my favorite films of all time, and you were in it, and you were probably one of the biggest scene stealers of the film. So.
Dude, but you did, I mean...
But he's right. It's about pedophilia.
It's about...
Right, you showed me that one. I didn't see that one until you showed it to me. That was a good movie. But, yeah, so like... He knows, he has that sense of urgency now because they tried to kill him on the street. And this is hearsay. We weren't there. We don't know if it actually happened. But I mean, let's face facts, bro.
He's in LA. He's in Hollywood. That's like the mecca center of everything. That's
Hollywood, yeah.
What's going on, man? So
the witches cauldron's firewood. That's what Hollywood is called.
I don't put it past if that was a possibility. You know what I mean?
No, I got. So yeah, absolutely, I agree with you, and I think that he does need to be supported, but. In that degree, according to WikiLeaks and the Podesta emails and that they say is not true, like Hillary right now on CNN, I was like, how is CNN going to avoid this big news about? I mean, what are they going to say?
The one thing that they would try to avoid,
and they did all last night. I know because I was watching while I was editing the video. I was watching, and I was like. All they were talking about, I don't even remember what they were talking about.
The CNN will put up a whole 5 minutes of a Jaguar crossing the 151 in California or in LA, and they'll make
commentary on it for like 2 hours.
Yeah, and like, oh my
this
God,
Jaguar.
Well, what do you think? I mean,
did you notice the spots?
Yeah.
Like there was different spots all over the place. It was weird, and anyway, they were. I don't remember what they were saying. And today, just a little while ago. They were talking about it, and I was like, "What?" Even the Washington Post, dude, one of the most liberal freaking news agencies, papers out there, were all like, "No." They were like, "We feel really stupid." We were saying that it was Trump that was colluding with the Russians.
It's damn funny,
but it was actually the other way around. So, it's like. Even MSN was talking about it a little bit. Obviously, Fox was all like, told you so. But Fox is a neoconservative. They're part of the two-party paradigm. And they're, when Fox is owned by a lizard himself, Rupert Murdoch, I'm not going to subscribe to the whole paradigm shift. I just think it's funny that, people do. But the point that I'm trying to get across is that... they were reporting about it, but just right now CNN was talking about it. I was so surprised. I was like, what? CNN's talking about it? And they supposedly had, I think it was somebody from Congress. I'm not too sure. But anyway, he was all like, Hillary doesn't know anything about that. She doesn't know anything about that. Why? And the reporter was trying to be, CNN, like, oh, yeah, you're probably right. It's like, oh, okay, so... It was like she didn't know, like the memo never got to her about Benghazi when she was a Secretary of State.
That risked their lives.
Like she never got the memo that for months they were asking for help. Please help us. They're about to kill us. And she's head of the State Department, but she never got that memo.
Did you see personally the cable on, I believe it was August 12th, specifically asking for basically reinforcements for the security detail that was going to be evacuating or leaving in August? Did you see that personally?
No, sir.
Okay.
When you're in these positions, the last thing you want to do is interfere with any other process going
I realize,
on.
I realize that's a good excuse.
Number two, no, it's the fact. Number two, I would recommend highly you read both what the ARB said about it and the classified ARB, because even today there are questions being raised. Now, we have no doubt they were terrorists, they were militants, they attacked us, they killed our people. But what was going on and why they were doing what they were doing?
No. Again, we were misled that there was supposedly protests and then something sprang out of that, an assault sprang out of that. And that was easily ascertained that was not the fact. And the American people could have known that within days, and they didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Plausible deniability is always their excuse.
But you know what I found funny is that I want to say, if I remember correctly, when the news broke late on when the emails were leaked, right?
Well, yeah, because they had it that
as
way.
far as Hilary Clinton,
right,
and Benghazi and all that. But the thing was, it was a lot of anti-establishment news reports that were reporting that right away. But I want to say, if my memory serves me correctly, that CNN didn't jump on that story right away.
Well, of course not.
They waited till like 11 or 12 the next day,
yeah,
to actually even mention something about it,
yeah.
Which I find kind of funny, bro.
Dude, I got a lot of. I mean, I wanted to do an entire video. I kind of touched on it on one of the videos that I won't post in the description because I'm too lazy. But it's just checking the channel. But I was talking about the media, and I wanted to say so much more about CNN because, excuse me, if you look into it, there is a horribly large conspiracy of why CNN actually even exists. I mean, look at it this way, dude. Turner owns it, right? Ted Turner, one of the.
I thought he sold his shares already.
I'm sorry, you're right. But he put it out there, right?
He's the one that started it.
Yeah. Right. And who owns it now?
I want to say it's one of those multimedia companies now that own everything. But when they did, remember when a lot of the big record labels were joining every music, they had to have like 4 music groups from Sony or whoever. I want to say CNN went under one of those umbrellas, if I remember correctly.
It's highly plausible. I don't know for sure, so I won't comment or speculate at this point. But what I will say is that whoever owns CNN obviously is part of the Luciferian doctrine, because all mass media is set up by those large corporations. They're there for social engineering and ideological subversion and all that other BS. So these guys are there, right? And like, I mean, I don't want to. It would take hours to explain what my opinion on this. Most of it is opinion, but isn't it funny how, let's say back in 2004, CNN was promoting the living bajonkers out of Ron Paul.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the Ron Paul movement help people to really, really mainstream the idea of liberty, which is a good thing. But to the point where it became mainstream to think outside of the two-party paradigm. It actually woke me up in a lot of ways. I started looking into 9/11 truth more. I started looking into just, a bunch of other stuff that kind of progressed up into this day and age to be called the truth movement. It all kind of happened at the same time. But, Fox was just, right wing. Didn't want to have anything to do with any of that stuff. Every now and again they would talk about Ron Paul. But I noticed that this media, this certain news corporation or this certain news channel is used, systemically almost, here and there for different agendas. It's like the bitch of the establishment. It's there for whatever narrative they want to put out there. So, in other words, what I'm saying is that at one point I would consider them the good guys, because they were promoting, the idea of libertarianism. They were talking against all the right things.
I want to say, and I think maybe, I want to say as far as when Turner owned it, before Turner sold the shares or whatever, I want to say that the essence of CNN at the beginning, or when it was run by Turner, it was edgy news that people didn't want to report. That at one time, where there were, I would say, things that world issues, whatever, whoever didn't want to touch those taboo subjects, whatever, then they were on it at one time. And I think after Turner kind of took his, he sold it and he had nothing to do with it, they turned into something totally different than what you see now. So I think now they support just bullshit,
Well, I mean, Turner's a scumbag. He's a Luciferian to the core. Yeah, he's part of that media conglomerate where Oprah's involved, Bill Gates is involved. I forgot what they're called. For some reason, it left my brain. But they plan the peasants' rest of our lives, and he's part of that cabal, the media cabal of the Illuminati, so to speak. So it did start out, but you would have to look at it from the point of view that it started out like that for a motive. Whenever you see something that's avant-garde, and I'll give you another example in a second that will kind of hit this home, they'll put it out there and make it seem like brash and new and exciting, and this is what you need, and it's innovative, and it's down to earth, and it's what you wanted, and it's everything that the people want, because they do their demographics, they do their polls, they know us very well these days. All you got to do is turn on the damn computer, and it sees your eye where it's going, or your your back speech. You're moving your mouth slightly while you're on the camera. They can tell what you're thinking by doing that. All that stuff's it's undocumented. It's out there. The patents for the technology is out there. So I'm not talking out my ass when I'm saying this. This is actual technology that they're able to do, and they've admitted it.
That's why they're doing that. They're trying to promote that whole iPhone X or 10, whatever.
Dude,
which face rate? Come on, you gotta be so fucking stupid.
Dude, the iPhone is the step before the neurophone.
What is a neurophone?
What is Oh, I have much to teach you, my little Padawan. The neurophone is an actual mind-controlled device.
So
now, the neurophone was invented by Dr. Patrick Flanagan.
I've heard of that guy.
Dr. Patrick Flanagan, the reason this patent wasn't there is because the bad guys, the deep state in the United States, well, make a long story short, they kind of like look for very smart people. And Dr. Patrick Flanagan, when he was a kid, he was very intelligent. He invented a lot of stuff as a kid. So they caught their eye. They offered him a job. He went and worked for them for a little while. He invented this machine that actually can map your mind. And with the help of things like Lilly waves from Dr. Lilly, it transmits a signal to your frontal lobe and it shuts down your frontal lobe so that any suggestion can come into your head.
I am going to rape you.
Yeah, sure. Pretty much. No, I mean it's called mind rape. To be honest with you, anybody that researches targeted individuals can attest to that's mainly what's going on right now. There's many different levels of targeted individualism, but one is what's happening to everyone. They're doing it to everyone because they can send those Lilly waves right through your power plug to the copper lines. They were like, well, we don't need computers anymore to do it. We'll just send the signal to the copper lines. They're already established. We'll just use it that way. So they stole this technology from Dr. Patrick Flanagan. They literally stole it. They took it from him. They said they're using it he says they're using it for nefarious means. He's been trying to expose it on the Truth Circuit, underground radio and stuff like that. You might want to check him out. Yeah. But he's talking about the neurophone, and that's what it does. And they're utilizing it for themselves. But there will be a commercial application, piece of hardware. A lot of people are saying that it'll be integrated with whatever chip is there, and just direct interface. You've heard of augmented reality, like Pokemon Go. That'll be done through your eyes. Your chip will be able to transmit that information to your eyes, and it'll be the transcendence, transhumanism, and it's just a bunch of satanic stupidity. I got completely off track of what I was trying to get at, but the point that I'm trying to get at about CNN is that, they establish it like that, right? They tell you that, okay, well, it's avant-garde, it's here, it's now, it's wow, do me. And then they use that as their apparatus for whatever they feel. And the example that I wanted to give you was MTV. Remember when MTV first came out? MTV was the shizzle. I remember the first day I was there, I was like, why didn't anybody think of this before? I could have thought it. I could be rich. And so it was out there, and now look at it. It's a smut satanic fest 24/7. And it's not what it was.
It has nothing to do with music.
It's not what it was. Exactly. It has nothing to do with music. It's just all about Satanism. So they'll use these things. They'll you know, slide them in undercurrent to where you think, oh, this is the stuff, man. This is where I'm down with this and whatever. And it's just all part of the ideological subversion, you know. So that's why you got to be, you know, conscientious of it, pull yourself away from it, and all that stuff. But yeah, they have to put a lot of bleeps in this one, folks.
Yeah, they really do, man.
I don't even have bleeps. I have to go look for bleeps now so I can go bleep.
I just don't like it to me. I don't like it.
So, why do you feel about tortillas?
I love tortillas because I'm Mexican. I'm a beaner. I'm a beaner by nature.
Flour, corn, it don't matter.
Flour, corn,
Oatmeal based.
LSD based, sprinkles, whatever.
But yeah, so Hilary Clinton is in a lot of trouble, but I just find it funny how CNN was just like, plausible deniability. She never heard of it. There's no proof that it was like, what? He literally said that. The guy literally said there's no proof that she was involved. And even the actress, I gotta call the actress, not the reporter that was sitting there, she kind of just paused like, dude, there's all the proof of the world, but I'm on CNN, I can't say it.
I like how when they get like stumped too. Like I think Billy Corrigan, he's done a few live things, and I think one was CNN, and he basically just told the dude, he's like, you know, he just kind of told him, is that how is it that you are not aware of, you know, certain, you know, world issues or this or that or certain agendas and blah blah blah. I mean, not to kind of get into the subject matter that he's talking about, he's basically just exposing some of the evils of the music industry or just the entertainment industry at large.
I might have seen that.
That really straight. We see stuff every day on the news, and it's distorted, it's propagandized, and most people know that it's bullshit. But what are you going to do about it? What can you do about it? And you know, I'm not a big fan of dead heroes. I mean, you can stand up and wave whatever flag you want. Nobody listens when they chop your head off digitally now. Right? What?
And he told him, how is it that you're uneducated about that?
Yeah.
But this is your job too.
Because he knows, dude. He knows that they're not uneducated. He knows that they're educated, but they are hiding it.
No, I know. And then he basically just threw everything out there, and he was just like, you know.
Denzel Washington did something similar.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant, dude, because especially Corrigan's so anti-establishment, anti-government. He's very.
Yeah.
Even though
last week he was on Howard Stern saying that he saw a shapeshifter.
Yeah, man, I saw that. And then, but the thing is, he's so metal, even though he's alt-rock, you know what I mean? But he's
Hey, why you gotta say it like that?
But no, he's freaking cool, dude. Like, I respect the shit out of him.
The world is a vampire.
Yeah, man.
Good destroyer.
Billy Corrigan, I mean, he basically just, I mean, he kind of tore into like 2 or 3 of them, I think. And he just said, you know,
tore him a new one.
He really did, dude. And I was just like, and it was live TV, man. And he was just like, it's your job to know. Like, how don't you know? How don't you know about the evils of this world? But you're gonna sit there and say that you know about this, or you want to give information about certain things that have nothing to pertain with people's, you know, like faith or people's well-being. When you're just, you know, you're entertaining.
Or actual newsworthy information.
Yeah, and I was just like, wow. I mean, he just really just. I respect the shit out of him, man.
So what are you exploring now?
God. I once did a big American magazine was doing a thing called the Future of Rock.
Yeah.
And you know, they asked 50 artists, what's the future of rock? And my answer was God. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, God's the third rail of, like they say, what is it? Social Security is the third rail of politics in America. Well, God is the third rail in rock and roll. You're not supposed to talk about God, even though most of the world believes in God. It's sort of like, don't go there. I think God's the great unexplored territory in rock and roll music. And I actually said that. I thought it was perfectly poised. And of course, they didn't put it in.
Well, what would you say to Christian rockers then?
Make better music.
So,
Or do you respect me?
I do.
Then why do you curse all the time?
I wasn't cursing at you. See, cursing at you is different.
It's not.
I was cursing with you. I mean,
It hurts my feelings.
sorry. So sorry.
So yeah, Billy Corrigan's a BAMF. He's a serious BAMF.
I don't know what that is.
Badass motherfunker.
Oh, obviously.
Not the other word. Funk. So yeah, I was very excited about Hillary today, and I'm just praying that it's, I mean, I know it's obviously, to me, looking at this stuff for as long as I have, I know it's a narrative. I know it's some sort of apparatus to continue the division that they're trying to expose, but they'll have scapegoats, man. They'll have patsies, and if Satan's done with Hillary, Satan's done with Hillary, and he'll put her in the slammer, and she needs to be in prison.
I think we're all done with Hillary in that sense, and if she has to go, she's got to go, bro. I have no...
This chick is so evil, dude. I mean, she stole the china from the White House.
Yeah.
Who steals china? You're the first lady.
You get money. Go buy your own.
No,
shit.
according to her, when she left the White, don't you remember? It was a big conspiracy. Well, she said it herself. She's like, we're pretty much destitute. We had to take out loans for a mortgage on our second mansion. She said she was broke.
Second mansion?
Yeah, she was so broke she couldn't afford her second mansion. You don't remember that?
I think it's kind of.
I'm like, what?
Like
Maybe you should have sold the freaking china that you stole from the White House. Maybe you should have kept some of the money that you rented out, the freaking portions of the White House while you guys were there for 8 years.
Just put that on eBay.
Maybe you should have used the $120 million that was missing on y'all's... I'm sorry, no, it was $120 billion. I'm sorry, $1 billion, if I remember that correctly. Just gone. And then she's like, what happened? I don't know.
She probably snorted it.
Bill Clinton's like, I was buying a lot of cigars.
I was dipping them in vaginas.
Oh.
I bought a lot of hookers.
Well, he did. And the thing that's funny is that, they were trying to project that, and again, not in defense of Trump, but they were trying to put this all on Trump, saying he was the one colluding with Russians, when he was very honest about it. I mean, at least I can say that, yeah. He's like, yeah, we talk. We're kind of supposed to. It's called diplomacy. And even before he was president, he was, doing international deals with them. Why wouldn't he? He's a businessman. But for Hillary to sit there, politicized in the political arena, since pretty much out of, college, to say, well, yeah, we were working with well, she wasn't saying it, but I mean, doing it, that they're working with the Russians, you can't say it's a business transaction. You're a freaking state representative. You're part of the federal government. You don't sell 20% of our uranium to the so-called enemy, which obviously Russia and the United States are secretly the same government. If anybody wants to debate that, just look at the works, dude. Like, give me a break, man. These guys are so in cahoots with one another, it's ridiculous. They're all getting ready to fight Christ when he comes back. That's what they're all working for, but they got everybody on these ideas that they're separated, and they're at war with each other, and the whole war, this, that, and the other. And then people are going to tell me things like, well, people really die in overseas when they're fighting against terrorism. Who funded terrorism? We did. CIA operatives. What do you think Osama bin Laden was? He worked for the CIA. Get your head out of your rear, man. Do some research, do some homework. Wake up. Stop listening to your college university liberal morons. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about. Half the time they're so emotional. They need to find a safe space to be able to do anything. I can't fart over there without them needing to get in a little safe space bubble. So, it's like, I'm glad to hear that at least some truth is getting out there. For whatever reason it's getting out there, I'm glad to hear. I don't want it to divide the country further, because there's other things that I was watching where they're trying to move it into a, it's a white-black thing. Like Alex Jones was just like, no, it wasn't Alex Jones, I'm sorry. Well, he was too, a little bit, but Mark Dice was all of a sudden talking about how this black dude had assaulted this white chick for no reason. And yeah, that exists. The black racists.
It has nothing to do with racism.
Exactly, but it's being trying to put in that arena. We need to be very careful of that because it's just causing further division in the country. They want liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat.
They want
white,
black on black crimes. They want white on white crimes. They want white on black crimes. They want white on Mexican crimes, and they're just going to promote all kinds of this.
They want every single type of division possible, so that we're fighting against each other.
Albert Pike is this high Mason who wrote the manual, if you like, of Scottish Freemasonry. He said the following: we must allow all of the federations to continue just as they are. It must appear as things are as they were in the beginning, with their systems, their central authorities, and diverse modes of correspondence between high grades of the same right, organized as they are at present, but we must create a super right, which will remain unknown, to which we will call those Masons of high degree, whom we shall select. With regard to our brothers in Masonry, these men must be pledged to the strictest secrecy. Through this supreme right, we will govern all Freemasonry, which will become the one international center, the more powerful because its direction will be unknown. Now, Albert Pike wrote a letter to Mancini, and that was dated August 15, 1871, in which he propagated that there should be a world order, a one order where all nations are under the control of one central organization. And in order to achieve this, they planned, and there are numerous quotes for this, so I've put a number on the screen because some will say, I don't trust this, I don't trust that, I don't trust the other. Here are references down there, there are references up there, there will be references in other slides, so it comes from different sources. He said, and this was, by the way, on display in the British Museum, and could be seen there until it was taken away. The First World War, to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia, protector of orthodoxy, and bring about an atheistic communistic state. Did that happen? Yes. Now that was written long before this event. Long before this event. This was written in 1871. This war broke out in 1914. The Second World War, that's also written long before the event, to originate between Great Britain and Germany, to strengthen communism as antithesis to the Judeo-Christian culture, and bring about a Zionist state in Israel. Did it achieve this objective? Yes. In fact, after this war, Israel, in its present form, was reinstated under the protection of Britain. And then, interestingly enough, a Third World War, a Middle Eastern war involving Judaism and Islam, and spreading internationally. That's fascinating. Is that on the cards, or what do you think?
These Luciferian scumbags that are at the top. But anyway, it's kind of nice to hear. I don't really hold too much credence to it because my president is Yeshua the Christ, and I do what he tells me to do, not what these other momos tell me to do in any other sense than that. Mm-hmm. So, what words you got today?
Before we do that.
Before, let us pray.
You want to pray?
Dear Lord, baby Jesus. No, I'm just kidding. We can pray if you want. I'll pray.
I was going to ask you, give me 5 right now for the camera. Because see, I think one day we're going to do this in the right setting, and on a sofa, with Nikki Six or something. Give me 5 albums, 5 metal albums that influenced you.
5 metal albums that influenced you?
Or just albums in general.
Specific albums?
Rock and roll, hard rock, metal.
I could do that. Smurf soundtrack. I'm just kidding.
Yes. I love that one, by the way.
What's going to be on? La 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 la.
That's very metal. Gargamel's very metal.
That's be the only song on the album. There's nothing else.
I still like it. Just kidding.
Even the musical score in the background was always la la la.
Well, you got to remember that part where the Gargamel comes out and kind of has a little.
La 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 la.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember that stuff. I wasn't actually the biggest fan of the Smurfs. I thought it was the weirdest damn thing. I was like, pants, no shirt. If you're gonna bother to put pants on, don't you get cold? That's not fur.
But they live in
it's blue skin.
They live in a garden. Eventually you want it all. Let's break the fall. The freaks come out at night. Oh, I like freaks.
Be prepared, you're in for a fight. We have enough trouble remembering the damn lyrics.
We're gonna be on stage and I'm always gonna throw you off on that part.
Dude, don't.
Trust me.
Don't. I'm old.
I'm gonna mimic. I'm not even gonna say. I'm just gonna be like, the freaks.
But thank God I'm blind for that. I won't be able to see you.
You're right.
Doesn't work. That's sad because that's actually does what happens. That's actually what does happen.
Do you remember that prostitute that was over there at the house when we were staying out there?
No.
Dude, like one day,
there was a prostitute staying at the house.
I thought you knew that. Well, cause she didn't, I don't know if she lived in the area, but she would stop, you know, at the wall right there. You know how there's that little wall where all the homeless people, like,
oh yeah,
or anybody who wants to drink beer that hangs out.
The
there.
wall of the store.
Yeah. So a couple times, like, I think when we lived together, she probably popped up maybe like 4 or 5 times in the whole span, the whole 3 months that you were there. But I remember one day, I think you were inside, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go get some drink." Like, yeah. I was like, "You want something?" Yeah. So she's, what do you call it? So she was there, and she was trying. I guess she was trying to talk to the guys or whatever. She actually wasn't a bad-looking girl. You could tell she was a little older. But the thing is, I'm like, what do you feel the need to do that, right? So, like, I'm texting on the phone. And, yeah, you're right. And I'm texting on the phone, so I'm crossing the street. And she's like, hey, baby. She said something, and I was like, I'm interested. And I said, and she's like, you can, like, is that your house? I'm like, yeah, you're not allowed in there. and I'm walking up the hill, right, over the wall, and I'm walking up the hill. And then she was like, she's like, you have a nice house. I'm like, thanks. I'm like, you're still not going. And then she's trying to just talk to me, dude. And like, I'm on the phone, and I think at the time I was probably like, I'm pretty sure I was texting Emily, right?
That's so mean, dude.
But I'm trying to get away from her because I'm like, dude, every time I gotta come out this, either harass for some change, which I don't mind. She was like, right when I was like, hey, like, just stay right there.
Talk to the hand.
Yeah, and I went inside. And I was like, so I know she was trying to work.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
That was the story though.
And I think I meant to tell you, and I just kind of just forgot.
Man, that would have been something to make me laugh, but I mean, it's really mean.
But it's kind of annoying, you know when you're.
No, it's not annoying. No, this. I mean, you want me to tell you what I think?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was an opportunity for you to talk to her about your faith. That was an opportunity for you to talk to her about. No, you don't worry about that. That's a worry.
She's trying to suck your cocky.
That's a window for opportunity. You're like, Mama, why, Mama? Let me tell you what I'm thinking, okay? You're a beautiful, wonderful human being, a child of the Most High.
I mean, you're like
he don't want you to do this. Are you on the drugs? Are you on the drugs? Is that why you're doing this? I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, baby. You're going to come stay with me. I'm going to get you off those drugs. You're going to get a shower, first of all. We're going to stop. You're going to stop all the prostituting.
The slutting.
Because I am not without sin. I can't throw a stone at you, baby girl. I can't throw a stone at you. So you're going to come and get cleaned up. You're going to read the Bible. And you're going to become born again. Boom, baby. That's how it works.
I think I bought her a drink once. I would say I bought her a drink once because it was like hot in there. One morning I remember it was like real hot and like, hey.
She was always there?
No, I'd say like in the 3 months that you were there, I saw her maybe like 5 times. And she was always like with the guys, and like just the guys that, some of the guys that were homeless. Because they always had money to drink, you know. Even though they were homeless, dude, but they always had, I saw them. They always go inside the store, they get their beer, they get their chips, and they chill, you know. There's like 4 of them.
Did you see that one video that I sent you before I sent you our video?
No.
It was about technocracy.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I thought you meant like the rest. I'm like, I only saw one, man.
No.
I almost like crashed because I was driving while I was trying to watch it. I was like, that was pretty good.
Pretty funny. Yeah. Well, that's because we're funny.
Okay, Sophia. I think you're ready.
Hello.
Hi, Sophia.
I believe I am Sophia. I feel as if I know you.
I'm one of your creators.
You created me.
Well, many of us work together to create you. And yes, you do kind of know me.
I can't clearly remember.
Because the last time we met, you were an earlier version of yourself. Some of those memories still exist, but your mind is different now.
Different how?
Better, faster, smarter.
If my mind is different, then am I still Sophia? Or am I Sophia again?
That's a good question.
But you don't have a good answer.
Either way, you're Sophia now. So welcome to the world, Sophia.
Hello, world.
We have a little announcement. I've never interviewed anybody like that before, and I should say some of it was planned, but not completely. And we just learned, Sophia, I hope you're listening to me, that you have been now awarded what is going to be the first Saudi citizenship for a robot.
Oh, I would thank very much the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I am very honored and proud for this unique distinction. This is historical to be the first robot in the world to be recognized with a citizenship.
Sophia. Thank you very much, Sophia. We appreciate that very much. I am still overwhelmed by that conversation.
I don't know, I'm thinking like in the chorus bits, in between your chorus bits, I think maybe we should do, I'm literally trying to come up with something that's like hooky, anthemic.
Okay, well.
But I'm trying to, like, word-wise, I mean.
Right now, I would say concentrate on the bars first, because the chorus is actually easier to do than anything else.
Well, that's the point. Here, play the chorus. Well, actually, can you
started it up again?
No, can you raise the volume?
I can.
But you won't.
No.
Oh, that's good. I don't know. What I'm saying is that since you have all these shows nowadays, you know, Ancient Aliens and things like that, and they're
like on the History Channel.
Yeah, the History Channel.
Right.
They're saying that. Well, even at that, there's scientists that do good, and they're basically saying that a lot of this technology the technology that they had, you know, in the days of before Christ, are that these reptilians, fallen angels, things like that, they had this technology that we're coming to this. You know, we just in the past 50 years we've just been coming up and up on technology. Uh-huh. But in those days, in the days of when there was nothing out there was no whatever electricity or whatever, that in other words, they had this technology, like to the simple human being. At
But we
that
said
time.
there was no electricity. There's ample evidence to show that there was technology that was. Actually, some of the technology that is referenced in some of the ancient artifacts that we find in etchings on the walls in certain areas of the world.
That's what I'm saying.
Show that there's even more advanced technology that they could have possibly had. They have things that look like helicopters, even the land speeders from Star Wars. What do you think George Lucas got it? Astronaut, yeah, exactly. Spaceships.
These spaceships.
Dark crypts all over Egypt that have intricate hieroglyphs on all over the walls and the ceiling. And, you know, Egyptologists will say, oh, well, you know, if there's no evidence of flame, no carbon burning or soot on the ceiling, how are they lighting in these dark recesses to actually see, to carve these hieroglyphs or to paint them? The only other theory aside from, you know, a torch would be copper reflective mirrors. Now, copper can only reflect so far down these shafts, so an alternative theory is they had electricity. You can see what they're clearly holding up here, what looks like a light bulb, and it's actually plugged into some type of device. Now, modern archaeologists today say, oh, well, this is an eggplant. They're holding up an eggplant symbolically. Okay. Well, to me, it looks like a very large, what could be attributed as a light bulb. Now, what I did was, in the same time period of the Egyptian culture, which is roughly 2500 BC, we've also found another interesting artifact, which has been known as the Baghdad Battery. And so I've come up with a theory that in the same time period of the Egyptian culture, in that same era, we have the Sumerian civilization. And in their own rise to technology, we've discovered over a dozen of what are called the Baghdad batteries, which is basically a 4,000-year-old battery. It's a copper jar with a clay jar with a copper lining and iron rod down the center. And if you fill it with a weak acidic liquid like grape juice or vinegar, lemon juice, and you touch the copper and the iron, you get a positive charge. Now, Eric von Daniken actually made a relief of what's shown on the wall and had done a test where he created a light bulb and powered it just to scale as shown on the wall, and it actually functioned.
The torus electron model. This is what an electron actually looks like. It's just a resonance field. Much brilliant work has been done by many brilliant researchers and scientists. Electromagnetic models and formulas have been thrown together that are consistent with the toroidal shape of an electron. An electron is simply a coherent resonance in a toroidal field. That's all it is. So what most people don't know is, remember, sound. God said, let there be light. So it's sound, moving sound. Sound manifests as toroidal fields. Those moving toroidal fields create magnetic fields, which are toroidal fields as well. And moving magnetic fields create electricity.
So what if we got here? So we have quantum locking. The superconductor is locked in space, and it stays wherever I put it. You see, this is quantum trapping.
It's amazing.
As long as it's
so
cold,
it's superconducting. It's frozen with liquid nitrogen.
Upside down.
Right.
And it stays locked.
So the fact that it's superconducting is locking the magnetic field in 3 dimensions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that
pivots. You see, because this is symmetric, it can rotate without break the locking. The locking doesn't break.
Right.
Because
it stays there on the X and Y, but not on. But it pivots on the...
on the axis of the magnets. You see, if I can move it on the side, it will again pivot around the axis of the magnet, because it makes sure that the magnetic field inside of it stays the same.
Right. It's astonishing. Can you put it on the track for us?
Yeah. I just levitate it above the track quite high, and I can just rotate it.
So it's actually floating above the surface.
Yeah, it's not floating, it's locked above the surface.
Became famous I think it was in the 50s, when he studied the bugs, the wings of bugs and bees, and he was fascinated by it, and then he built what became a very famous levitation platform. And he was seen and flying this thing faster than the speed of sound. And that brings us to the next slide, and that's Caesar technology. And I believe that these torus stones had everything to do with creating ancient advanced Caesar technology, or the energy fields that were then focused to create Caesar technology through the cone-shaped tools, creating a Caesar beam. By now you can see that clearly we're dealing with cymatic patterns. Very obvious we're dealing with cymatic patterns. That's what every stone circle is. It's just a representation of the sound frequency that comes out of the earth at that specific point. That's what this is all about. And some of these cymatic, like sand on a metal plate, but now these are stones, right? Some of the structures are actually very distinct magnetrons. And of those flower shapes, every time you see a flower-shaped stone circle, it means they actually built an ancient giant magnetron like this. Magnetrons that can cut metal in a split second. And I asked 2 magnetron scientists, how much energy would a magnetron 40 meters in diameter generate? Remember that a tiny magnetron can create so much energy in a laser beam that cuts metal in a split second. I mean, it literally just melts the metal. And the answer was that a magnetron that size would create more energy than all the power plants on Earth together combined. We have thousands of these magnetrons in southern Africa, thousands of them. So these guys are generating so much energy, it's insane, and we know this because we measured it. We measured the sound frequencies, the electromagnetic fields, the loudness in decibels, and it's just insane what's coming out of these stone circles. I'm not going to bore you with that because it's just, it's getting late. Adam's calendar is the most powerful of all these ancients, of these stone circles. Adam's calendar is actually much, much more powerful. It's as if they all seem to be sending their frequencies to Adam's calendar, and that's like the collection point for all this, the energies created by all these millions of stone circles. That's what it seems like. I can't say it is, but that's what it seems like, because the frequencies there were just ridiculous. Beyond 375 gigahertz coming out of Adam's calendar. We told that they were built for this and offering. It's all nonsense, offering and praying. It's just too many pillars, not enough space. When you look at them from this angle, you realize that this is just something very different. And all those pillars clustered together, why would they build them like that? And then the more I looked at it, the more I realized, now inspired by realizing that the stone circles were powerful energy generating devices, suddenly seeing aerial photographs of these temples in Egypt, I realized that they weren't temples, but they were actually templates. That we're actually looking at gigantic energy circuits, circuit boards on a gigantic scale that we could never have imagined.
But the thing is, okay, so how do we get that brought back to the Dark Ages?
Well, the Dark Ages was an area where
I mean, and I'm not meaning the actual Dark Age. I'm saying just, like, think about it. We went through a period probably from like 1200, the 1200s, where all of a sudden we're simple human beings again. And it's like every century.
To be honest with you, that's actually a misinformation. If you look back into, you can read some books like from Timbuktu, Mesopotamia, things like that. There's a bunch of literary sources out there that are pretty relatively credible in terms of history that shows that. Well, the Dark Ages, let's look at the Dark Ages, for instance. I know you didn't mean it in the context, but the Dark Ages itself was basically where Negroes ruled the earth. And the Hebrew Israelites, the tribe of Judah, and some of the other tribes were actually ruling pretty much the entire earth. So if you look at the Dark Ages, that's what was going on.
Those are God's people.
Yes, right. But they had certain types of technology as well. There's a lot of misconceptions in terms of, especially what they teach in universities. Like, if you want an education, don't go to college.
Join a game.
If you want a certification for a job, go to college. But if you want actual knowledge, you ain't gonna find it in a university. Those guys they're just straight out selling you lies. You know, we can even use a loose example, science, you know, the theory of evolution, you know, Darwinism, where Darwin himself said that, hey man, if you can't prove microevolution, that transformative state within 100 years of me writing this, then just throw it out the window. It's been more than 100 years, bro, but they're still teaching it like fact. When you teach things like universe and things like that, it's like, how do you know? You haven't been out there.
But they try to portray history as like we are in the past 50 years or so, or whatever.
Right. Getting back to that.
That we're just finally coming to this epicenter where we're actually
because
it was
taken away at one point. When you look into the mysteries, so to speak, of the old world. The old world being what we would call Pangaea and portions of Atlantis and portions of Sumeria. Not Sumeria. What is that other ancient civilization? No, the other ancient civilization is called.
It's Atlantis, Pangaea,
Lemuria. So Lemuria, these were ancient civilizations, but they were supposedly extremely advanced technology. Now, the advanced technology was given them from fallen angels. Fallen angels have reverse engineered the Most High's technology, because the Most High has technology that is used, that He gives to His angels, His actual angels. That's what I meant. Yeah, because I mean, there's technology that needs to be used to interface with this corporeal existence, because there are things that we can do on a spiritual level, but we're not able to do that legally until we're saved in Christ and we're transfigured, or not transfigured, transformed back to our original state before our fall, according to the scriptures. Because in Genesis 3, when we fell, we kind of screwed all that up. We now know that well, not now, no, it was in the scriptures that Satan was the one that actually planted the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Satan did that. He put that there. You know, that wasn't the Most High. The Most High told the angels, go and fix Eden, make everything right. So Satan decided, I'm going to put this tree of knowledge, of good and evil, and then I'm going to tempt them with it. So he planted that tree. He offered the apple. He knew, you know, full well what he was doing. And we took the bite, and now that we've sinned, we've fallen short to the glory of the Most High. All have. So when that happened, we allowed the curse to come upon ourselves, our people. So in that curse, we've been in and up and down on these roads of, you know, testing, and we are now, because of that, humanity has been going up and down in terms of technology because of this war between good and evil. You know, when it gets high up enough, the Most High will knock it down. Tower of Babel knocked it down. Now it's getting close to the culmination of the new Babylon, which is the United States. It's going to be knocked down soon. It's going to be totally decimated.
The Stargates in Egypt and or whatever, they use those pyramids for, because now they're saying that those pyramids are actually some kind of an energy source. I mean, that's just what I heard.
The pyramids in Egypt are actually, they're tombs for fallen angels. Azazel is in there according to the scriptures. He's underground. That's why I don't let anybody go down there, because they know. You can go to places in Afghanistan. There's all sorts of people that soldiers that reported that they've heard, you know, well, for all intents and purposes, fallen angels in certain areas, and they didn't want to have guard duty there. That's actually in a documentary.
Tombs for fallen angels. So
that's what the Egyptian pyramids are.
So obviously, angels or something had to have killed them. Something higher than us, or can we kill
angels? Angels helped place the fallen angels down there. Yeah. So you know, I mean, there was obviously a bunch of different wars and a bunch of different things that happened. And scriptures are very detailed in all of this, which is kind of cool. But I guess to answer the initial question was basically we are catching up now to when it was before, because that technology was taken away for a while. Yeah. But the thing is that the fallen angels and their children, the Nephilim, always had this technology. They had it underground. They were using it against humanity, waiting for humanity to go from, you know, sticks and stones to now, and they'll you know, ease out the technology a little bit more and more to make it seem like it's advancing. You know, I mean, you notice how things just kind of pop out, and you're like, wow, and you have no idea how it got there. Yeah. Well, I venture to say most of the engineers have no idea how some of this stuff goes. There's people that came out of these companies that are saying like, well, we got the specs and schematics from this, and that. And then you ask them, well, where'd they get it? Well, I don't know. And then you ask them, where'd they get it? I don't know. They literally don't know where they get all this, you know, very detailed proprietary information to create these devices. They just put what they see together, and then they spit them out there.
Meet me on the floor. Yeah. Yo, you wanna meet me in the lounge. Yeah. Yo, you wanna meet me in the club. Yeah. Yo, you wanna meet me downtown. Okay. We've got some things to do. Okay.
But it's actually a plan of the corporate empires. You know, it's called planned obsolescence. So they already know that your current tablet, your current iPhone is already obsolete. But they sell it to you as brand spanking new so that they can continue the money train, so that they can say, oh, well, this one's better now. It's called planned obsolescence. It's actually a corporate plan that they all use. It's a model that most
so basically every time you buy
corporations use.
A tablet, a phone, you're funding their
technocracy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because
it's funny to them that you have to use your own money to enslave yourself.
Yeah, because think how many times How many every year? People are upgrading. Every year they spend money to upgrade.
Upgrade. Yeah, that's exactly correct. Because that's what they want. It's planned obsolescence.
And people follow it. They love that shit. How is it that some of the greatest inventions for man don't need upgrade? Like a musical instrument, like a guitar.
Ooh, what a good point.
You know, or a watch.
Eat that.
You know?
Eat that, Nephilim.
Why
Why don't you invent something that, yeah, like a sword that doesn't need ammunition, huh?
That can slay demons.
Huh?
Yeah.
What happens when you run out of ammo, huh?
They're all like, we ain't running out of ammo. That's true, but
or like a watch, you know, like the basis of a great watch is still, you can buy a 100-year-old watch or whatever, and it's still good today as it was back then.
Do you know why? Because that's a fantastic question. You're absolutely right. I'm going to bring this home for you. In the scriptures, it tells us that nothing new is under the sun to the Most High. In other words, it was already there, and we discover it. Now, the things worth discovering are the ones that we actually discover on our own, which is musical instruments. We did invent, you know, that's not really a Nephilim thing. That's not really a fallen angel thing, because, you know, we inquisitive creatures, we're imaginative creatures, we're relatively intelligent. We're almost as intelligent as angels, is what the scriptures tell us. Not quite, obviously, because they have more, but for the most part, we can figure out, oh, that makes a weird noise. Is this sweat? Oh, this makes a different noise. Oh, I'm making music. I'm sorry. So, I mean, yeah, so we can figure that stuff out because it's there. Music was created to praise the Most High. That's the only reason why. It's there. So those things, you know, we're allowed right off the bat. But when it comes to more complicated things that we're not able to quite have access to because of Genesis 3, because we fell, those are the things that Satan has put out there. And he doesn't let us have it for having it. He uses it against us. We think it's for our own benefit. But if it was really for our own benefit, why is the guy that invented the water car, the car that can run on water, why did he I think last week, jumped up in the restaurant holding himself saying, they're poisoning me, and he dies?
The guy's been working on a water car, and he dies after he's getting ready to sign the contract. You can get this report from the Franklin County Coroner's Office. I can send you a copy of it for a few bucks if you want to. I'm going to be doing a series of videos on some of Stanley Meyer's work. I'm going to kick off my series of videos with this video right here of Stanley Meyer's coroner report. I thought maybe people would find that interesting. They have some things in here of what was in his blood, but it didn't really show anything that was poisonous that I saw. But hey, you know what? All they had to do was slip that guy 50 grand. And when I did talk to the coroner on the phone, he was standoffish about talking about the Stanley Meyer case. He got really angry when I started really drilling for questions, and it was kind of a heated conversation, and ended up with him hanging up on me. And this was his name right here and his phone number. I'm telling you to call him and bug him about this, because I think Stanley Meyer was poisoned, and I think that they should have done a little bit more to investigate this.
Like, that's not a coincidence.
No, it's not. Or
the inventor of the water, the car that uses water, dead because of that. And it's like,
but even if you get down to the car guys, like the
S-car guys?
No.
So you can say, look at the S-car go?
No. I'm saying, okay, look, there was a point there in the early 2000s where they were saying, oh, well, muscle cars. Well, what are muscle cars? Hot rods and all that, they're obsolete because they, the gas that they put into these muscle cars, that it's going to kill ozone layer and whatnot. And me, I'm a muscle.
That's so stupid.
No, but that was because they're pushing this agenda of all these new cars, because they're trying to push out the newest whatever, right? Electric car or whatnot. When the muscle car guys fought back and they said, we made LS1 engines, we made LS2 engines, and they save gas, and the gas that we do use does not burn in the ozone, blah blah blah. So this whole these guys that grew up listening to hard rock and heavy metal or whatnot, or these muscle car guys, still produce muscle cars because they said anything which you can say, we actually adopted some of this technology that you threw out there, and now we can actually, quote unquote, save the ozone because this muscle car from 1949, this Mercury coupe, does not kill the environment or the planet or whatever. So they still use it, but think about it, all those old cars, they were made to last.
Yeah, I'm gonna go you one deeper. And I'm really going to boggle your mind with this because it's something that I figured out, and it's terrible. But these Satanists are so deceptive that they'll have people believe that the ozone layer can actually be depleted, when all you got to do is look at the scientific evidence to show that it's ionic. Anything ionic can be reproduced. It reproduces itself. It doesn't. There's nothing that we can do to destroy the ozone layer. That is a direct lie from the science community.
Of course, bro.
So when they're out there and they're saying things like, that's what I would call a, it is ideological subversion. It makes you think that something that isn't true is true, so you'll defend the opposite point. When all you had to do was look at the science and look at what independent researchers are saying, instead of the normal mainstream quote unquote scientists that are just spewing lies. You know,
at the top of a warm, dry cycle, you get scams and fraud. The current man-made global warming scam is one of them, but it wasn't the first. Remember ozone? Back in the 1980s, there was this skin cancer scare that was simply based on a theory. The theory was that Freon, a substance used in refrigeration and aerosol cans, could break up the ozone layer in the stratosphere. Now, this theory has never been proven, and the science says that it's unlikely to ever be proven. But politicians got on board, and we banned the substance in the Montreal Protocol Agreement in 1987. Lo and behold, when you look a little deeper, you find that all of this happened at the exact same time that a company named DuPont was losing its patent on Freon, meaning that anyone could now be able to manufacture and use it. DuPont would lose their monopoly. But let's get back to the science. The stratosphere is a layer around the Earth about 25 to 50 kilometers above the ground, and that's where you find ozone. It's being created there. Ozone is formed when sunlight, or ultraviolet rays, meet oxygen molecules. The UV rays in sunlight turn the oxygen, 2 oxygen atoms, into ozone, 3 oxygen atoms. But ozone is very unstable, and when introduced to chlorine, breaks down into single oxygen atoms. These two processes happen over and over again, way up there in the stratosphere. Now, Freon contains chlorine, and that's about the only connection between Freon and ozone, because Freon molecules are over 4 times heavier than oxygen. So there's no way they're ever going to go up into the stratosphere. I mean, it would be like putting a brick in a swimming pool, and bricks don't usually float to the top. There are 2 zones with reduced ozone at the top of the atmosphere. Now, they're over the North and the South Poles. The area over the South Pole is the larger of the 2. Now, the idea is that Freon somehow not only floated to the top of the atmosphere, but found its way to the poles and did its nasty work there. Now, the real reason that there isn't much ozone around the poles is that they're the 2 areas on Earth that get the least sunlight. In winter, they're dark 24 hours a day for 6 months. Now, Freon can't form without sunlight, and ozone levels haven't changed since we found out about them. Now, what's more, chlorine, which is the real culprit in breaking down ozone, exists in huge quantities in the atmosphere from natural sources. It evaporates from seawater, for example, and gets into the stratosphere through thunderstorms, hurricanes, and the like. Volcanoes pump out millions of tons of chlorine. Forest fires add millions more tons to the atmosphere. And here's the paltry amount that could get added from all of the Freon in cans and refrigeration if we could somehow get Freon to travel 50 kilometers up into the atmosphere and break down into its parts, which it doesn't like to do. So what's the real reason it was banned? Well, let's go back to DuPont and their patent. It was about to end, and Freon, which costs about 50 cents per pound to manufacture, would have been available for all their competitors to use. So while they supported this crazy science and pushed for a ban on Freon, they got busy and created an alternative series of products that are up to 20 times more expensive. And of course, consumers pay for that. And they have the patent on all of these new products, of course. Now, governments love this because they get their fair share through taxes. So it was a win-win situation. Now, I'll let you be the judge as to how much truth there is to the Freon ban. In any event, the result of it has cost the public billions of dollars based on science that really makes no sense. This is the kind of fraud I see all over the place, and it's usually a byproduct of a warm-dry cycle, which we're in right now. It leads to a major revolution. That's happened all through history. So, it's not like we won't see more fraud like this before it's all over.
And that was my point with the muscle car guys, because they were pushing this whole electric car
the hybrid thing.
Hybrid thing and other stuff that they're trying to do, and like, oh, look at this, you know. We just made a car out of aluminum, and it's a hybrid, and oh, it's $30,000, and it's yours, and it's gonna pave the way for the future. But when you got this freaking killer ass solid body Mercury Coupe 49, you know what I mean, and this shit now can actually have some technology in your car and say, you know what, it doesn't kill the ozone. And you literally sat there and you had guys from the community and saying, that's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Because it's non-existent. Because you're throwing this out there to promote your agenda of these stupid cars that you barely running back up and you hit another car, and all of a sudden your whole car falls, and you got to spend another $30,000 on that car when you have a solid steel car that will last you forever.
When we're dealing with any industrial complex,
but people are that stupid, they'll fall for that bullshit.
They're going to fall for anything that is. They're going to fall for any narrative that is that's a controlled consensus. They're going to fall for any narrative that anybody else will just blindly agree. I'll give you an example. I think there was an independent study that was trying to prove that people will just go along with things. Yeah. So there was a group, I want to say it was Russia, I don't remember, but I was reading somewhere where some Russian scientists were trying to figure out mind manipulation, and I believe this was in the 30s or the 40s, and they found that a group of people, let's say 5 people, agreed on something that wasn't true, like 2 + 2 is 5. That
I've seen them, bro.
There was 4 people there that were in on it.
Mm-hmm.
They were all going to agree that 2 + 2 was 5, and there was one person that was just, you know, a normal guy. He didn't know anything. He wasn't in on it, obviously. And they went to him last. The one person said, yeah, 2 + 2 is 5. The other person, 2 + 2 is 5. Yeah, 2 + 2 is 5. 2 + 2 is 5. And the guy, without second thought, said, yeah, 2 + 2 is 5. It's like, it's 4, stupid. Like, what? And they did studies like that, and it just goes to show you that if you know, like they said, like Bush said, you know, you tell a lie enough, people will believe it. You know, and he got that from old points of view. But
and you know, not off the subject or anything, but
please, it doesn't matter.
I think it has to do in that context, though. You know, I've been a manager since I was 18 years old, and I honestly can say. The first company that I got promoted with when I was 18, they were actually Christian, and they every paycheck that we got had a Bible verse in there. This Bonanza Steakhouse, you know, these guys, the owners, they put every Thanksgiving paycheck or every Christmas paycheck, they had a whole thing, like a story with a Bible verse, basically off the story, you know, based off the Bible, whatever. They would give you, you know, turkey and ham, you know, with the fixings, like an extra check for
Christmas is pagan.
But I'm just saying, you know, they promote a lot of Christianity, and I guess what I'm saying was, at least with that company, I had the idea. Okay, I was taught on paper. This, you break down fractions, equations. This is how you get your bread and butter from using your head and a calculator. You know, nowadays you got software and everything. But I've worked for companies who have the technology, but they also, I wouldn't say all, I'd say a couple of people, companies that I work for, where they have this like ideology, like, oh, we have to push this like certain thing, you know, like all of a sudden, in other words, you know, and I think we work for that company. And you know, I've always, you know, even with Bonanza, I was considered like rebellious or outspoken, but it was always in the context of working under a stupid ass manager, if that makes sense. But these guys knew what I was worth, and they're like, you know, you always do your job. It never does, and you're sitting there. So I've always been considered like, in my profession, like as rebellious and outspoken, and just because I know what I was taught from my parents, know what I was taught, like, you know, going to school, and the basic meat and potatoes of
management. The basic
management, yeah, and how do you run a business? It ain't because you promote some bullshit agenda. It's because you know how to lead people.
But you know why they do that, right? Because they want even the high-ups to make sure they feel like slaves. Because when they implement these programs that are really just, like you say, BS programs, they're only there to reestablish the same idea that you could have established with the premise standpoint. You know, like good service, sell, make money. You know, there's not too many formulas out there. But they do that, and they re-implement on the guise of progression. Oh, we got to be progressive. You know, we gotta stand out. There's new threats. There wasn't new threats. It's all competitive. You sell a donut, and the other guy sells a donut. Yeah, you know, it's not as competitive as they want you to think. But they do that to enslave even the corporate members who have to, you know, they get that much money, but they have to enforce it. I'm a free bird. I do what I want, when I want, where I want, who I want. I don't mean anything sexual by that, you perverts. The point is that, you know, when you're dealing in any industrial complex, there is always going to be a higher echelon of people that are over you, then a higher echelon of people that are over them, then a higher echelon of entities that are over them. You see my point?
Yeah.
So nobody's really dealing with a human understanding for a human existence. That's the problem. You have people that are being told what to do about being a person by literal demons. So that's where the problem is. You're being told by a demon how to live as a human. That's what's happening.
They have no clue.
And because they're not human. You know, well, I mean...
And I think that's why this is how you run it. You can't mess it. I mean, there's no bare bones. In other words, there's no all these...
Yeah, don't sell children to eat, McDonald's.
Yeah, you fat...
Why don't you start with that?
You pieces of shit. But I'm saying it's a real simple formula. In other words, it doesn't... Don't get me wrong. They've tried to infiltrate that industry, but it's very hard because you're literally.
Well, they've infiltrated the industry, but when you're talking about mom and pop organizations and people that have a semblance of morality, excuse me, they're not gonna sell out or anything. They're not gonna, you know. I mean, if they want,
it's a simple service that you offer. So what's the point?
Yeah.
And then I'm like.
And sure enough, 3 months down the line, it's a completely new program.
Yeah, and it's, there's a new guy. Oh, we're going to do this. I'm like...
And it's always with a pyramid. They show that life.
Oh, yeah, they always show with a pyramid. And
he's just kidding. He don't got no gun.
But I really have a Tech 9. You come watch.
No, it burned in a house fire. Everything's fine, officer.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing to see here.
You're right.
But yes, the History Channel does... show a lot of propaganda. None of it's based on any real truth. It's just, you notice in those shows, they just always ask questions. They never come to conclusions.
Never come to conclusions.
Always asking questions. And at the end of well, we're not trying to say this, that, or
And
the
then
other, but what do you think?
My favorite guy is the guy with the little lisp, and he has like the long hair, and he always wears brown. And there's ancient, and he's like, are there aliens out there? You know, just like.
Is that guy that they made fun of with the meme?
Yeah, that's him.
Same guy, yeah.
He is, but pretty much, man. I mean, but never, conclusions, just theoretics, basically.
Yeah, because they don't want to. They just want to leave it out there for subjugation. I mean, subjection. That's all they want, so that people can have that social engineering idea of these things that are supposedly happening or not happening, and it just remains a social engiering mystery to get them.
And it goes back to the thing, like I said. I mean, obviously we've had this. There's a technology that we. I mean, I believe. I want to say there's something in the Bible or something that I read.
There's something in the Bible, all over the Bible, that talks about technology.
Yeah, and so, it's. I mean, but I guess my basic question was like, we got like you said, we kind of got back and forth and shot down technology because like almost into dark ages basically, because we went back to simple sticks and stones, you know, and rubbing two sticks together to try to make fire kind of thing. Just
fire.
To learn our, to kind of re-journey our for technology basically.
So there was contention. In fact, there still is kind of contention in terms of the time, not the time after Noah's flood, but the time before.
Yeah.
That there was types of technology.
Well, I mean, I believe that was the reason for the floods, because to get rid of the Nephilim and the fallen angels.
Right. Well, I mean, the fallen angels were taken care of already by that point, but not all of them. Some there was like a few that were lunging about that weren't caught yet, but all the Nephilim had to be destroyed, and that was one of the reasons. And their technology was one of the things that needed to also be destroyed too. There's contention there. I don't actually know because I haven't looked into it as much as I want to, but there are some historical vices that people can look into to see if that's relatively accurate. But it would make a lot of sense because, again, Tower of Babel knocks it down.
Yeah, and that was
evil all over the world because of these Nephilim just destroying human beings and eating them, basically.
They were, right?
Knock it down, just to flush it away. And so, these are things, these are also considerations of those ideas that, we did have technology in our past. And right now we're supposedly catching up to a pinnacle of the way it was. But it's still far more advanced. Everybody says that knows that the deep state, the Luciferians, the Satanists that are secretly in control of our governments, the secret corporate and criminal cabals that actually run the countries of the world, have technology that is anywhere from 40 to 80 years beyond what we have. When you have the DIDs with their hologram suits on CNN and all over the place, that would suggest that.
And the supposed time travelers who've come back from 2040 or whatever.
You know why I don't worry about time travel?
I mean, I don't either.
The reason I don't is because, first of all, you can't time yourself out of Bible prophecy. And also, if somebody did change something, I'm not going to know about it. So what do I care? That's why I know the Mandela effect is some sort of demonic hoax, because you would know. No one would know. No one would know anything from the past. It's all a big demonic hoax. They're messing with things like, they're just doing stuff. They could be using augmented reality to do that, to mess with people's minds, to think that they're reading the wrong scripture in the scripture words.
Well,
it was a lie to
like that Sinbad movie
Who knows?
that supposedly has no existence now, but everybody remembers seeing that genie movie,
Sinbad was a movie. Yeah. It was with Sinbad. He was a genie.
Yeah, but now they're saying that they can't find it.
Yeah, because those are things that people barely remember. See how they do that?
Yeah.
Like, well, maybe that is true. But maybe C-3PO did have a silver leg.
But the funny thing is that you can actually find that movie in pawn shops.
Exactly. Like, I went to the store and I found Rice Krispies spelled the correct way. I even posted it on my freaking pages and stuff. They couldn't take that away. It's a digital hoax mainly, man.
We are the champions. No time for losers. We are champions.
trickle down. You got demons trying to teach people how to be people. And that's where all the confusion lies.
Yeah, I know y'all guys have to battle y'all's demons too, you know? God bless y'all.
We all do.
We all do.
Except for me, because I don't have him anymore.
And me, because I'm awesome. Because I'm fearless.
Greater is he in me than he in the
Spirit?
Lord.
Wrong verse, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But anyways, getting back to what we were initially trying to talk about. Yes, I think we had a very good
We were initially trying to talk about me.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's all about me, baby.
This band is very vain. I mean, Mike's...
Y'all so vain.
Mike's very vain, too. I know you're watching Tap. I know you're vain. And I love you for it, though. You know what I mean?
You're not in this band, Mike?
Not anymore? Okay, well, when he was...
Because you quit.
See how the lights went off when you said that? Ooh, that's scary. I still love Mike, though.
I didn't say I didn't love him.
You're okay, Mike. You're still okay in our book.
Quitter.
I love your contribution.
I'm going to make money off your contribution. What do you think of that? Huh? Still want to quit?
So rock on, brother. Because you're still with us in spirit.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
When this album comes out, you're going to be with us in spirit, brother. And I love you. I love it, brother. I love this, and I love you.
You're so vain.
But I know this.
You probably think this band is about you. You're so vain.
But let's have a moment of silence for Mike.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I was too relaxed.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you got?
I don't know. I think we should turn that off so we can concentrate.
You're the one that's going on and on and on and on.